The Formula One world has once again been rocked by major news from the Ferrari garage. While most attention was focused on the second half of the season, Ferrari instead came up with a technical move that could potentially change the course of their campaign. After a lengthy evaluation of the SF26 performance in several key races, the Maranello team reportedly introduced a new development package designed to address one of their most challenging issues this season: how to make the car more stable, more consistent, and more manageable without sacrificing aerodynamic performance. And this time, Lewis Hamilton's name is once again at the center of attention. Ahead of ZANDVOORT, there was talk of a new chassis, part of Ferrari's evaluation of the SF26 package. But the chassis wasn't the only factor. Ferrari also used the summer break to develop the floor, which has become one of the most sensitive areas in the modern ground effect era of Formula One. This isn't just about bringing new components to the track. Ferrari appears to be trying to gradually change the character of the SF26. Data gathered from Austria to Silverstone is a crucial basis for this development direction. The two circuits offered contrasting insights into Ferrari's weaknesses. Austria tested the car's braking, traction, change of direction, and efficiency in high-speed sections. Silverstone, meanwhile, presented a far more extreme challenge to aerodynamic stability, particularly when the car had to maintain balance in fast corners. This is where Ferrari began to see a pattern. The SF26 had speed. But that speed wasn't always consistently usable. And for a driver like Lewis Hamilton, this issue is crucial. Hamilton needs a car that can respond clearly when entering corners, especially when changing direction, and when trying to maintain high speed at the apex. If the aerodynamic balance changes too aggressively when the car changes ride height, a driver can lose confidence in a split second. That's why floor development is so crucial. In modern Formula One, the floor isn't just a part of the car's undercarriage that helps generate downforce. It's a key component in controlling airflow under the car. When the design works correctly, the car is capable of generating substantial downforce consistently. But when the airflow under the car is disrupted, its character can change drastically. A car can feel incredibly fast in one condition, but suddenly lose balance when the speed changes. And Ferrari seems determined to address this issue. New developments prepared during the summer break are part of Ferrari's strategy to enter the second half of the championship with a more predictable SF26. For a team as big as Ferrari, changes like this aren't made just because of one bad result. Every decision typically stems from a vast amount of data. GPS data, aerodynamic pressure data, ride height data, tire temperature data, steering angle data, throttle data, and comparisons between simulations and real-world conditions on the track. All of this information is then used by engineers to figure out why a car is fast in one condition, but loses performance in another. And Austria and Silverstone provided Ferrari with two crucial pieces of the puzzle. In Austria, Ferrari was able to see how the SF26 performs on a relatively short track with hard braking zones and strong acceleration. There, the car's ability to maintain traction becomes crucial. At Silverstone, however, the issue becomes much more complex. Fast corners like Copse, Maggots, Beckett's, and other parts of the British circuit demand a very precise aerodynamic balance. Drivers must trust that the car will remain attached to the asphalt at very high speeds. If the front loses responsiveness, the driver will struggle to steer the car. If the rear is too light, the driver will lose confidence in opening the throttle early. And if the aerodynamic platform is unstable, the car's entire performance can change depending on track conditions. Ferrari doesn't want that to continue. Therefore, floor development is one of the key weapons they are carrying into the next phase. Interestingly, Ferrari doesn't appear to be seeking a complete revolution with the SF26. Instead, their approach is more like a precision operation. They take the parts they consider problematic, analyze them, and then change them without destroying the car's fundamental character. The strategy is Ferrari doesn't need to start a new car project from scratch. They just need to make the SF26 perform more consistently. And if they succeed, the impact could be felt immediately in the performance of Lewis Hamilton and his teammates. Hamilton himself will undoubtedly be one of the most closely watched drivers when this new package is used. Since joining Ferrari, expectations have been high. Whenever his performance hasn't been optimal, attention immediately turns to the driver. But in modern Formula One, the relationship between driver and car is far more complex. A world champion can't magically overcome a car that isn't giving him the right information. Even the best drivers need a predictable platform. Hamilton is known to be very sensitive to changes in car characteristics, especially in front-rear balance. When the car responds appropriately to his driving style, he can exploit that ability to the fullest. But when the car exhibits inconsistent characteristics, the driver's confidence can be lost. And that's what makes the development of the SF26 so interesting. Ferrari isn't just chasing lap times. They're chasing consistent lap times. That's a huge difference. One fast lap can certainly make headlines. But in racing, what's crucial is the ability to maintain performance over dozens of laps. The car must be able to maintain tire temperature. The car must remain stable when fuel is low. The car must remain competitive when the wind changes. And most importantly, the car must respond equally to the driver from corner to corner. If Ferrari's new floor mats succeed in creating a more stable aerodynamic platform, those benefits can spread throughout the car. Hamilton can brake more confidently. The car can maintain higher speeds mid-corner. The throttle can be opened earlier. The rear tires can operate more consistently. And Ferrari's race strategy can become more flexible. But of course, bringing in new components doesn't automatically mean Ferrari is instantly the fastest team. This is part of what makes the development at ZANDVOORT so interesting. Every upgrade must be proven on the track. The simulator can provide predictions. A wind tunnel can provide the numbers. Computational fluid dynamics can show airflow patterns. But ultimately, the asphalt will provide the answers. And ZANDVOORT is a very interesting place to test these changes. This circuit has a different character than Austria and Silverstone. The tight track, high-profile corners, changes of direction, and demands on downforce require the car to be extremely well balanced. Small setup errors can be immediately apparent. If Ferrari pursues downforce too aggressively, they could lose speed in certain sectors. If they reduce drag too much, the car might struggle to maintain corner speed. Therefore, ZANDVOORT could be the perfect laboratory to see if Ferrari's new development philosophy truly works. And this is where the new chassis associated with Hamilton comes into play. The chassis plays a huge role in how the entire car works as a whole. It is the foundation upon which the suspension system, power unit, aerodynamics, and various other components interact. Chassis changes are not something to be taken lightly. If Ferrari is indeed introducing new chassis specifications to support the SF26 development direction, it suggests the team is addressing a much more fundamental issue than just a single aerodynamic component. However, we must be careful to distinguish between a new chassis, a structural revision, and a component package designed to improve system integration. In Formula One, technical terms often sound simple, but their implications can be quite complex. What's clear is that Ferrari's message is quite clear. They are not satisfied with the current state of the SF26. And they don't want to enter the second half of the season without making changes. This also suggests that Ferrari is increasing its aggressiveness in the development race. At the start of the season, each team is usually still searching for the best direction. After a few races, data begins to accumulate. By mid-season, engineers have a much clearer picture of each car's strengths and weaknesses. At this point, development becomes an information war. Mercedes brings upgrades. McLaren responds. Red Bull makes corrections. Ferrari then looks for gaps. One team found a solution on the floor. Another team discovered the benefits of diffusers. Some gain performance from the suspension. Others pursue aero efficiency. And Ferrari appears to have chosen to focus on the stability of the aerodynamic platform. If successful, these changes could have a domino effect. Hamilton will no longer have to adapt to a car that changes its behavior in certain conditions. Engineers will also have cleaner data. Setup becomes easier. Tires are easier to understand. And race strategies become more predictable. But the biggest question remains. How much of an improvement will the new package actually provide? Because in Formula One, a difference of a few tenths of a second can drastically change the starting position. A small improvement of 0.1 or 0.2 seconds per lap may not seem like much. But multiplied over dozens of laps, the impact could be substantial. Furthermore, if the improvements make Hamilton more comfortable driving, the actual benefits could be greater than the simulation figures. Confident drivers dare to brake deeper. Dare to maintain higher speeds. And dare to take risks when overtaking opportunities arise. This is why Ferrari's development this time isn't just about downforce numbers. It's also about driver psychology. Hamilton needs to feel like the car is under his control. And if Ferrari can deliver that feeling, we could see a different version of Hamilton in the second half of the season. ZANDVOORT is a very interesting starting point. All eyes will be on Ferrari when the car leaves the garage. Fans will be watching for any changes to the aerodynamic details. Rivals will be watching the ride height. The engineers will be looking at the GPS data. And Ferrari itself will compare all these results with the simulations they've already conducted over the summer break. If the correlation between the simulations and the track meets expectations, then Ferrari will gain something far more valuable than just a single upgrade. They will gain a development direction. And in Formula One's technology war, the direction of development can decide the fate of a season. If the new floor proves effective at ZANDVOORT, Ferrari could use it as a foundation for further upgrades. They could develop a diffuser based on the new airflow characteristics. They could optimize the suspension. They could make adjustments to the bodywork. Even the front and rear wing setups could be adapted to the characteristics of the new platform. In other words, one change could open the door to many more. And this is what makes the second half of the 2026 Formula One season potentially much more heated. Ferrari isn't giving up. Quite the contrary. They are conducting a thorough evaluation and trying to find a formula that can make the SF26 more competitive. For Hamilton, the arrival of the new package is another opportunity to demonstrate that he is still capable of delivering elite performance when given the right car. For Ferrari, it's a test of their entire technical department. And for their rivals, it's a warning. Just because Ferrari is standing still doesn't mean Ferrari has stopped developing. They may actually be working behind the scenes. During the summer break, when the paddock seemed quieter, the engineers at Maranello continued working. They analyzed the data, analyzed simulations, compared laps, iterated designs, recalculated airflow, and finally, they brought the results of their work to ZANDVOORT. Now there was only one question that computers, simulators, and wind tunnels couldn't answer. Does the SF26 really change when Lewis Hamilton steps on the accelerator? And finally, they brought the results of their work to ZANDVOORT. Now there was only one question that computers, simulators, and wind tunnels couldn't answer. Does the SF26 really change when Lewis Hamilton steps on the accelerator? If the answer is yes, then this upgrade could be one of Ferrari's key turning points this season. But if the performance doesn't live up to expectations, Ferrari will have to dig into the data again, and find the next answer. And that's Formula One. It never stops. One upgrade tested. One piece of data discovered. One problem solved. Then another problem arises. But for now, Ferrari has sent a very clear message. They've identified the SF26 weaknesses. They've gathered data from Austria and Silverstone. They used the summer break to make corrections. And they came to ZANDVOORT with an evolution designed to make the car more stable and aerodynamically efficient. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton's name was right at the center of the project. If the new chassis and floor can make the SF26 easier to handle, more consistent with the tires and more stable in fast corners, then don't be surprised if Hamilton starts showing much more aggressive performance. Because perhaps the problem all along wasn't how fast Hamilton could drive. And perhaps the real question is, how fast can Hamilton drive when Ferrari finally gives him a car he can truly trust? And ZANDVOORT will be one of the first places to find out. The second half of the season has begun. Ferrari has chosen to react. Hamilton is ready to prove himself. And the SF26 development war has just entered its next phase. Ferrari is once again in the spotlight ahead of the ZANDVOORT race. Amidst intense competition and pressure to close the points gap, the Maranello-based team is reportedly preparing a development strategy that isn't focused on just one race, but rather a three-stage development strategy designed to transform the SF26 character for the second half of the season. And most interestingly, one of the main focuses of this plan is said to be directly related to Lewis Hamilton. Ferrari recognizes that the SF26 still has several weaknesses that prevent it from performing consistently across all circuit types. Single-lap speed may seem promising, but when it comes to race conditions, the issues become much more complex. Car stability, aerodynamic efficiency, engine power, and corner exit traction are still crucial for Ferrari. Therefore, ZANDVOORT is a crucial first stage. The ZANDVOORT circuit has a unique character. This track demands excellent aerodynamic balance, especially when navigating a series of fast corners. Ferrari is reportedly directing the development of the SF26 to address aerodynamic weaknesses that have made it difficult for the car to maintain speed in certain sections. For Hamilton, small changes to the car's balance can have a big impact. Hamilton's driving style relies heavily on confidence in the front of the car when entering corners. If Ferrari can provide more precise response at the front while maintaining rear stability, Hamilton could potentially have a car that is much easier to control throughout the lap. This is why the development for ZANDVOORT is considered more than just a simple upgrade. Ferrari doesn't seem to want to pursue instant performance. Instead, they are building a series of interconnected developments. The first stage is aerodynamics at ZANDVOORT. The second stage will come at Monza, and this is where Ferrari will likely turn its greatest attention to the power unit. Monza is a circuit that is highly sensitive to straight-line speed. A car that loses even the slightest bit of engine performance can immediately pay a heavy price in lap times. Ferrari is therefore reportedly targeting power unit improvements to address the characteristics of Monza. If these improvements deliver significant performance gains without sacrificing reliability, the SF26 could offer significant advantages on the straights. And for Hamilton, this could be an opportunity to demonstrate its strength in wheel-to-wheel combat, especially under hard braking after high speeds. But Ferrari isn't stopping at ZANDVOORT and Monza. The third phase of this plan leads to Austin. In the United States, Ferrari's attention is said to be turning to a crucial issue that significantly determines a car's performance during a race: traction. The ability to get power to the asphalt on corner exit is one factor that can determine whether a car can maintain speed throughout a stint. If the rear tires lose grip too easily, a driver not only loses time in a single corner, but can also carry that loss into the next sector. Ferrari wants to improve this area. And if these three improvements work as intended, Ferrari will not only have a faster car on one circuit, but a more complete SF26. Zandvoort will be a test of aerodynamics. Monza will be a test of power. Austin will be a test of traction. Three different characters, but one goal: to reduce Ferrari's gap to its rivals in the championship. For Hamilton, this situation is certainly very interesting. After a period of adaptation, and dealing with the various characteristics of the SF26, any upgrade that makes the car more consistent could be a significant factor in changing the outcome of a race. What's also interesting is Ferrari's approach, which seems to be becoming more structured. They aren't simply bringing in new components every weekend and hoping for a performance boost. Developments are being made based on specific weaknesses identified by the data. This is what makes the three-stage plan so interesting. Ferrari understands that to make up for lost points in the final stages of the season, having just one fast car isn't enough. They need a car that can perform at a variety of circuits. And Zandvoort is the starting point for that mission. The question now is, has Ferrari truly found the formula Hamilton has been looking for? If the aerodynamic upgrades at Zandvoort are positive, then the power unit upgrades work at Monza, before finally resolving the traction issues in Austin, then Ferrari could enter the final stretch of the season with a much more competitive package. If. But the world of Formula One is always full of one unpredictable factor: how quickly will rivals respond? Ferrari isn't the only team making improvements. Mercedes, Red Bull, McLaren and other teams are also constantly chasing performance. Any advantage Ferrari finds could be quickly matched by rivals. Therefore, every practice session will be crucial. The data from Zandvoort will be the first clue. Is the SF26 truly more stable? Has Hamilton gained more confidence entering fast corners? And most importantly, has Ferrari managed to mitigate one of their car's biggest weaknesses? If the answer is positive, then these changes could be the start of something much bigger. Ferrari isn't trying to save one race. They're trying to change the direction of the SF26 development for the rest of the season. And Lewis Hamilton could be one of the drivers who benefits most from these changes. Now all eyes are on Zandvoort. Because if Ferrari has indeed found something brilliant for Hamilton, we'll likely see the first signs when the SF26
love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no